Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again, and this time I wish to talk about the virtues of disobedience. And yes, I know it's shocking, I know it's paradoxical, but I think that's exactly where its beauty lies. Because if we understand that most of our lives we have been trained and taught right from our inception or even before that, we have been trained and taught into living and thinking in very lateral and literal ways. We've been taught to sit straight, to walk straight, to look straight, to think straight, to be straight. And while we are living that straight linear line, that straight linear life from point A to point B, we kind of miss the whole picture. And that is when they say that life completes the whole cycle. It comes back full picture. And maybe it comes back full picture to help us see the bigger picture, which we are missing out on when we are trying to live in very literal and lateral ways. And when we are living in very literal and lateral ways, we inherently compartmentalize and categorize things in black and white zones as being good and bad, as being acceptable and completely rejectable or unacceptable, as being very pleasant and being absolutely unpleasant. And we fail to understand that life works in relation to this and that. Life works in terms of conceptualization of things. It works in terms of contexts. It is not necessarily black and white all the time. And there are no beginnings and endpoints to life. And that is why they say it completes a whole cycle, because when it completes a whole cycle, it again starts from the same point from where it had ended. So there is no beginning and there is no end, which means that it's a cyclical process constantly moving like life, trying to evolve itself. And if we are an embodiment of our belief systems, if our identities about ourselves, of ourselves, are based on our belief systems, I think that like life, they should also evolve with time. And therefore, I wish to address that maybe we've been given this opportunity this time to take a step back and to look at the bigger picture, to look at both sides of the coin and the space in between. So how about looking at the different side of disobedience? How about seeing disobedience in a different light and not thinking of it just as somebody who defies norms, as defiance of norms, as defiance of normalcy, because what was normal yesterday is not normal today, and what is normal today will not be normal tomorrow, and therefore it constantly needs to evolve, because they also say that old ways of thinking never opens new doors. And if we are not opening new doors, we are constantly recreating the same cycles over and over again. And we are not only living it for ourselves, but we are also passing it down, handing it over to others whom we interact with. And they kind of repeat the same cycle over and over again. And unfortunately, that truly doesn't help in evolution. Because to me, evolution is also about seeing the holistic picture along with the holes in the picture. So what is the different side of disobedience? As per me, disobedience is probably a compassionate inquiry, a curiosity that we have failed to tap into. Have you ever looked at a child who constantly asks a why, has a why for everything? The child is in constant amazement, is constantly fascinated with everything, even with its own self, with the world outside of itself. It's just constantly fascinated. and it's in awe of everything that is happening around, and that is why it has a why. It wants to understand, it wants to see the bigger picture. And somewhere, as we start to grow up, we lose that curiosity about ourselves. We discard it somewhere, for we want to fit into a certain norm, which is considered as normal. But have you ever looked at our history? Our history would always tell us that the best of the creatives, that the best of the leaders were the rebels, which also means that they were the most disobedient ones. Right from Buddha to Mahatma Gandhi to Martin Luther King to Rani Laxmi Bai to Rosa Parks to Steve Jobs to Jiddu Krishnamurti to Rajneesh Osho and to a whole lot of other people, Michelangelo, all of these people carved their own path. They probably tried to walk the normal prescribed path, but they probably felt disconnected with their own selves, and therefore they leaned in the other direction. They tried to walk their own paths, and that is how man liberates himself. And when man is able to liberate himself and herself, man is able to give that to others as well. Because when we are confined and conformed, we kind of want it for others because that's a very familiar way of living and thinking and doing things. And we are kind of afraid of the familiar falling apart. And we are also afraid of walking the unfamiliar most of the times. And that is why we stick on to our belief systems. We don't want to evolve it. We like the conformity and the comfort of that conformity. Because we know the pitfalls as well. We know that we are chained, but it's okay. We know where it will hurt. But if we walk the other direction, we really don't know what is going to happen. So we rather not walk that path, but stay confined. But maybe, let's also understand that the best of the creatives, the best of the creativity, the best of the leaders have come from disobedience, by following their own path, by not disregarding the normal, but by saying that maybe that is not my normal, but maybe this is a path that I need to walk into, that I need to carve out for myself. Because if everybody keeps doing the same thing over and over again, can we truly say that we are liberated? Can we truly say and claim that we are free mentally and emotionally? Because is it not all interconnected? And then we hand over the same things to others. We want them to follow suit, to recreate what we had created, to walk the familiar path. And I think it's my understanding that disobedience is also something that helps us set our own personal boundaries. So when we do not like something, or when we are not, in sync with the so-called normal norms, whether it's in a family or in a society or in the nation or in the justice system, when there is something that does not resonate with us, we are able to put down our foot and say, I do not accept this. I'm willing to stand up for this and against this, against whatever is existing out there. I'm willing to speak out for myself. And probably, we start owning more of ourselves, because we start being true to our own selves. And when we start being true to our own selves, when we start liberating our own selves, when we start owning our own selves a little more, we kind of, you know, feel liberated to give that choice to somebody else as well. We are absolutely okay when somebody else also has that choice for themselves, and we don't feel threatened about it. So maybe there is beauty in disobedience as well. Maybe we can create better things. We can become more curious, more alive, and we can explore our own selves, giving that liberty to others as well. So let's try and understand the bigger picture. Let's try and see both the sides of the coins. Let's try and see the whole of the life, and let's try and shift ourselves from very lateral and literal ways of thinking into more holistic ways of thinking and living, so that we can walk into life completely, wholly, being less afraid every single time when we take a new step ahead. Let's try and do that, and I will see you once again next week. Till then, stay tuned.